Thank you, Sean. We'd like to thank the Valley of the Sun. We'd like to thank Tostitos and Frito-Lay, especially the Tostitos team, for the great time that the kids have had this week. It's been a great balance of allowing us to do our job, kids working hard and preparing for an important game, and at the same time they've had a lot of fun. The committee, I've always heard that about the Fiesta Bowl committee, but they've been able to go to the Insight Bowl, they've been able to go to the Suns basketball game, they've eaten a whole lot, and they've had a lot of fun, and weather's been unbelievable, and all the kids, it seems like, from Texas and Ohio State, even though that they have not been together a lot, when they have, it's been very respectful of each other, and very, very excited about the game. Our practices have been good, they've been spirited, everybody's healthy, and everybody's excited about the game. Questions?
Questions? We ask that you please use the cordless microphone. If you have a question, raise your hand. Coach, I guess it was a quick one, huh?
That's good. Thank you all.
Right here. Here on the left.
Had to be from Austin, too. So. Yeah. Let me say, while Leslie's going to ask the question, too, Jim and Ellen Tressel called us when we were back in Austin and said that they do an event at each bowl where they take canned foods and take them to a food bank in honor of Ohio State, and they give a lot of money back. And they asked us if we would like to be involved, our wives be involved. And this morning, about 50 of our wives are going over to help Ohio State, and I think it's at St. Mary's Food Bank, to give a lot of food to the less fortunate at this time, because the bowls are so great to coaches and families, and they give us such opportunities that we felt like that it was a great gesture for Ohio State to do this each year. And we were pleased that Jim and Ellen called us and asked us to be involved. They're involved at a big level. We're just learning, but it's something that we're definitely going to do from now on.
Coach, will you just talk about the uniqueness of the field and the stadium, and is this the first day that the team actually gets to get on it?
Yes, it was exciting watching it yesterday with the playoff game with the Cardinals, and our guys will actually leave here and head to the stadium. They'll have about an hour there. They will not get to practice in the stadium, but they can walk through and look at the dressing room and kind of get their feel of everything. And we're going to give them a little opportunity like we did at the Rose Bowl. They're going to have their cameras so they can take pictures, and be the last time the seniors will be together in a non-game setting, and let them sign autographs for each other for anything they want and take a little team picture. So it should be a good hour out at the stadium. We're really looking forward to it.
Back right.
Coach, can you talk about what you think about Terrell Pryor, and also there's been talk that Ohio State might use the two quarterbacks at once, and talk about that?
Yes, Terrell to us is like a young Vince Young. He's tall, he's strong, he's 6'6". He was Mr. Everything in high school. He won all the games. He's a great basketball player, and we see Vince Young as a freshman in Terrell Pryor. I mean, he's hard to tackle. He can throw. Because he's such a great athlete and so strong, he does not get the credit for his passing that he should get. He's completing 63% of his passes. He's thrown very few interceptions, but he can dominate a game if you let him. And he's got Beanie Wells and that big offensive line to take some pressure off of him. So that's the concern that we have, and think it's one of the great matchups going into the game. Is we've gotten credit for great run defense, but we haven't played runners like Beanie Wells and Terrell Pryor. And if you look at our Oklahoma game, we held them to 47 yards, but that's about the only game you can compare a big offensive line and running game, so it'll be a great matchup for us. As far as their two quarterback system, we hope it works as well as ours.
Back left.
I think ours had 5 plays for minus 12 yards or something. It was and we put a lot of time in it and talked about it a lot, and it carried the media in Austin for about 6 months, and then now they forgot the name.
Mack, in light of USC looking pretty impressive in the Rose Bowl, and then Utah beating Alabama, another undefeated team, and then you guys, of course, as well. Might this year finally be the tipping point for the BCS? Really, you could have 4 teams that could make a claim, I suppose, for a national championship.
I do think that it'll keep it hot on all of our minds, and our system's obviously not set up to have a definite 1 or 2 on years like this. We said in 2005 we only had 2 undefeated teams. You go back to the year Auburn won 13 and didn't get in, is a very difficult thing. You go back to the year that SC was so good and they got the AP title and did not get the BCS title. And then I also think we've got to look at, just because a team is in the BCS game, the final game, if one team gets blown out, should they be number 2 when some other really good teams are sitting around? So I do think we've got some flaws that we continue to need to look at. I think it has to be driven by you folks. Coaches have said openly we'd like to see something different. We love the bowl system. I played at Vanderbilt for 2 years. When I saw Vanderbilt kick a last-second field goal to win their first bowl game since 1955, there will be no team and no coaching staff any happier than that Vanderbilt staff was. So we, in my estimation, we do not need to take that away from college football. It's an exciting time. I see 7-5 teams throwing Gatorade on their coach. At Texas, if we were 7-5, they'd be throwing something on me, but it wouldn't be Gatorade. I'll tell you that. So, but it's exciting for them and it's fun. And some of those teams can't get to this spot, so we sure don't want to lose that. But I do think that obviously after this weekend, whether it's us, you already look at SC. They have made their claim. You already look at Utah. They've made their claim that there should be another game or two to let us see who's best with their body of work through the whole year.
Front right.
Mack, I guess you've been scrimmaging the young guys late in practice. Can you point to maybe some of the non-starters right now who've looked good in the practices who you might need next year?
I really can't, because it has no relevance to Monday, and I'm really worried about this game. But I'll talk to you about it later, Chip, because nobody else in the room cares but you, very honestly. But if you want, I'll hit you with that as we're walking out. How about that? Is that fair? Ohio State would be pumped about what freshman red shirts we might be looking at for spring today. That'd be big for them.
Over on the right.
Just to evaluate the special teams, your team against Ohio State.
Yes, I always worry about special teams when we're playing a Jim Tressel coach team. I think he's as good as any. They're sound, they're fundamental. They're returning punts at an average of 15 yards per punt. They're doing a great job on punt coverage. I think they're holding people to 4.13 yards per return. Kickoff return coverage, they're doing great. I think it's at like 17 yards a return that are allowing. They've struggled with kickoff return some. So it scares you to death, and it's something that he'll fake. He's well coached. There's probably more pressure on us in this game than them coming in with everybody thinking we were supposed to win. So I think you'll see a loose Jim Tressel that's going to go for it and keep the guns down the whole game.
Far right again. Right over there, Coach.
Mack, could you talk about not only the on-field contributions of your senior class, but the way they've provided leadership the past year, taking ownership and kind of setting an example?
Chuck, it's been great. I think it's the best I've ever been around in 33 years, and basically it's been a deal where that group and some juniors stood up starting the Holiday Bowl last year against Arizona State and said, we're just going to start helping the coaches do what we need to do. Coaches aren't around all the time, and this group has been very vocal, and that's why I think they'll play hard on Monday night. They have every other game. They practiced hard every day, and it's because of them. A lot of people say that this team will be great next year, and that's not necessarily true, because when you lose some ingredients like a Brian Orakpo and his leadership and what he's meant to this program, or a Roy Miller, and you don't have those guys next year, my experience has been that you just don't wave the wand and say we've got a lot of good players coming back so it works again. And for whatever reason, it didn't work as well for 2006 and 7, and it's worked this year. I heard one of you ask Brian Orakpo the other day, what's the difference in this year and the other previous 2 years? Because we might have even been more talented some, and his point was probably good, and we don't talk about it enough. He said injuries. We had so many injuries in 2006 and 7 that people couldn't stand up and be leaders, for instance him, because he stayed hurt the whole time. And we had a lot of those guys, so he said it disjointed our leadership core, and really and truly that was the reason he thought that we weren't as consistent in those years, because we didn't have as many people on the field. And this year we have been more fortunate. We've had very, very few injuries, and if we have, we had them all at tight end, but we haven't had them in such a huge numbers that it's affected the way we've played.
Front right.
Mack, down here.
Yes.
What's the next 36 hours like for you? With big games like this, do you still get nervous and anxious and kind of ready for it to get here, or how do you deal with all that?
Yes, I asked Coach Royal once that did you have trouble sleeping the night before a big game? And at Texas, they're all big, unless if you lose one, it gets real big. But he said that unless you gag before you brush your teeth on Saturday morning, you're not ready to play. And I gagged this morning, so I think I'm fine.
Over in the far right.
Coach, is it lost on back to the leadership, is it lost, do you think, on the younger guys, or are they feeling a sense of the responsibility that the older guys have helped bring them along this year?
I think they get it, and hopefully it'll carry over. You never know. We always talk about team, and I don't think any of us ever understand how to get it. Because if we did, we'd have a great team and great team chemistry every year, and we don't, for whatever reason. We talk about leadership. Do you recruit it? Do you build it? Do you teach it? And yes, but sometimes you miss it. And that's just the deal. Coach Royal's old story about if you've got it, you're going to make it. If you don't have it, you got no chance. If you don't know what it is, you damn sure got no chance. And some kids have it and some don't. And the Colt McCoys and the Quan Cosbys and the Adam Ulatowskis and the Jordan Shipleys and the Roy Millers, and we start just going through that group of kids get it. And then they make some other kids that might not have gotten it step up and play at a higher level. So hopefully we had some entitlement, we thought, over a couple of years with some of the younger ones. And last year before the bowl game, the older ones pulled the younger ones in. I thought part of it was scrimmaging, like Chip was saying, and the older kids were coaching them and jumping on them and getting after them. And if they weren't running, they were getting after them. And hopefully that'll continue. We want our seniors to go out right. It's really interesting in this game to me that both of these teams have won over 800 games. I think we've won 831. Ohio State's won 808. Both of these teams have won 63 games over the last so many years. Both of these teams have lost 4 games at home in the last 6 years. The seniors at Texas are 44-7. The seniors at Ohio State are 43-7. You start looking at the number of players currently in the NFL. Texas has 35. Ohio State has 37. I mean, if you just look at the storyline of this game, it's so close. It should be a lot of fun for all of us.
Back right.
Mack, the Big 12 hadn't fared quite as well in the bowl games, especially Texas Tech, Oklahoma State. Missouri didn't look that great in their win. One, do you think that hurts the credibility of the league, and does that affect your argument for maybe having a share of the title if you win?
Number one, Kirk, I think that based on one game, everybody changes their opinions now sometime on a half, and I think that's absolutely ridiculous. Why do we have a year if we look at a game? Secondly, my experience in the bowl games is the teams usually win that want to be there. And we've had some teams that weren't as excited about their game because they didn't get the draw they wanted. And they got disappointed at the end of the year. And if you look at it, to me, that's the biggest thing in the bowl games. Who has the edge? Who's motivated? Who wants to be there? It would be a concern if you look at us in Ohio State. I mean, that's a concern. So we've talked about it. It's something that could have been an issue coming in. I haven't seen it. I don't think it will be. But if you base Alabama-Utah, you would have thought Utah was more excited because Alabama was disappointed. I mean, you just look at Tech and Ole Miss. Tech was disappointed, and Ole Miss was excited. So if you look around, Boston College was disappointed. Vanderbilt was excited. If you just look around at the games and see who wants to be there and who's motivated, because none of us have played for a month, I think that usually tells you the story more than anything else. And I get into all this. If you play a bad team in a bowl and beat them, everybody gets excited and said, boy, that league's got their 6 wins. Well, they didn't play anybody with a winning record. I mean, my gosh. So I really think we should look at the body of work and see where that comes before we start making those decisions.
Far right.
Mack, excuse me, Jim Tressel was saying that he thinks that Texas and Ohio State are the most similar jobs in the country. Have you all talked about that and talk about your friendship or how well you all know each other?
We actually did. I didn't know Jim before our game in 2005. And then we discussed some things coming up to the game, and I was really impressed by him watching their film and similar backgrounds with coaching dads. And on the field before the game, we started talking about huge stadiums, very passionate fan base, a lot of TV and radio and news reports about each game, and that people cared about what we do. And there's some goods to that, and there's some others to that. And but we did feel like that being in the capital, being the like a pro team in town, that the jobs were pretty. They were different, and they were construed differently than some others in our leagues and some others that we played against. But at the same time, they're very unique and a lot of fun. And I think we ended up thinking that when you can coach where Darrell Royal and Woody Hayes coach, that's pretty cool stuff.
Far left.
Yeah, Matt, going back to
There we
something you said a second ago, what did you say and do with the players to make sure that there wasn't a problem coming here and being too disappointed?
What we tried to do was be honest. We told them if you beat A&M, and if you beat A&M by a significant amount, which was the second largest amount in the history of our series, that I would stand up and say that I thought you deserved to play in the conference championship game. And that's what I did. And we ask our players to keep their mouth shut and let me be the guy that stands up, because I don't want them out spending all their time trying to work to get attention for their team. That's my job. That's our sports information director's job. And that's what we felt like we would do. So until Fox announced it at 4 o'clock or 4:10, whatever it was, we didn't know what the announcement would be. Like everybody else, we were sitting and watching very closely. I got a call from our sports information director right after DeLoss Dodds got the call from Fox, which was 4:10 or something. And our first concern was that our players would see it before they heard it from us. And we never liked that. So we tried to text all of the players immediately and tell them that you didn't get in, and the bowl selection will come down, and you will be going to the Fiesta Bowl. And at that time, we weren't even really sure who we would play. We thought it would be Ohio State. So we called a 7 o'clock meeting that night, and not to belabor the point, and basically I told them the same thing. It's here's what happened. There's 6 computers. You get more weight for winning an away game. Oklahoma beat Oklahoma State on the road. We lost to Tech on the road. We don't like the system. We like to see it change. You don't even know who's voting. People that vote don't even see your games. Coaches that vote can have an itinerary. So, yes, it's not a good system for what we think. Some people like it. It's better than what we had 10 years ago. But in this case, it didn't work out for you. Well, one year it didn't work out for SC. One year it didn't work out for Auburn. In 2004, it worked out for you when you went to the Rose Bowl to play Michigan. So don't say, oh, poor me, and don't say the system was poor to you just this time. It's been poor to a lot of people. And it's good to somebody. This year it was good to Oklahoma instead of us. And we said, I read a statement to them that I had prepared through our president and our athletic director, and John Bianco, that said we don't like it, we don't appreciate it, we don't think it's fair, but it is what it is, and we're moving forward. And very honestly, from that day forth, I haven't heard it mentioned. The only time it's ever mentioned is if I go on a radio show or come and ask you all, because I really think that the players have moved forward. And I also told them, how do we know who, after watching SC and watching Utah, how is it going to be fair to have a national champion picked anyway? I mean, there's obviously more than one team at the end of this week that will have a claim to the possibility of being considered for a national championship.
Here in the center.
Coach, will you talk about just the importance of finishing, and kind of like what you talked about with Kirk, that the body of work you've done through the season doesn't matter as much if you don't win your bowl game?
Yes, this is a unique game to me because both teams need to finish. You know, you talk to Jim, and to me, Jim's been the most consistent football coach and team for the last 2 years at least, because he's the only guy to play for the national championship with his team 2 years in a row and just didn't win the 2 games. But if you look at it, every other game except those 2, he's the only guy that's been in those games. And in some ways, it's tougher because it's better to be third and win than it is to be second and lose, because people forget it and say you didn't win the big game. Well, how many can get to that game? So it's a great compliment to he and his program. They've gotten there. So this game to them, I'm sure, is about making sure that they prove that they deserve to be here again, but that they are going to win their last game of the year because of the tough situation for their seniors the last 2 years. From our standpoint, we've got to be careful that we're not satisfied that we're here. We were a team that was picked 3rd and 4th in our division, much less to be in a BCS game. And then we got baited with playing in the last one, and that didn't work out. So we've got to make sure that we feel like that, number one, if you get to come to a game like the Fiesta Bowl, the BCS, which everybody's trying to get to, none of our players or coaches have ever been in this game. So that should be fun for us. Should be a great reward at the end of the year. Secondly, we get to play a team that I just said the numbers. It's just like Texas. It's a storied program. Coach Tressel and their guys, when they've won 43-7, ours are 44-7. Neither team's used to losing. So both teams expect to win this ball game. Thirdly, we'd like to see our seniors go out on the right note because they deserve it. This senior class won a national championship in their freshman year. and they fought through to get some of that entitlement stuff back, and this team has played better than the two previous teams that we had since the national championship. And then lastly, you'd like to use this as a springboard like we did in 2004 at the Rose Bowl to move forward and hope that it could put us in a good spot to start out high next year. Sorry.
Back left at the camera.
Coach Brown, a little bit off topic from the game specifically, but how gratifying is it for you to have one of your former assistants in Mike Haywood be able to go on and now run his own program for the first time at Miami?
It's great. Other than dealing with your players, to have one of your assistant coaches become a head coach is just so much fun. Seeing Gene Chizik go to Auburn, where he loves, and get back. I know there was some controversy there, but Gene's a great coach. It'll be good for him to get back where he's really comfortable in that setting. And I was able to see the first half of Minnesota, Kansas, to see Tim Brewster out here coaching, and now to see Mike get a chance and get to develop a staff and pull them all together and work. And Miami's a great job. So Mike Haywood's now part of the cradle of coaches, and that's a lot of fun for us. I've talked to him a lot over the last week and texted him a lot. And he's got his first meeting coming up here. He's hiring his staff, and I've never seen anybody more excited. So I'm really pulling for Mike.
Final question here in the front right.
Coach, you have a very excited team coming to play in a big-time bowl game. Over the next couple days, you got young guys that play a lot. How are you tempering some of that enthusiasm from all the fun that they've had as they prepare to play a game? You got young guys that haven't been in a situation before.
Sean, what we told them is that Texas and Ohio State, you need to win your bowl game. So they are fun, but if you go and you have only fun and you don't work and you lose, you won't be going back. So what we do is we get them up really early in the morning. We practice them really hard. We don't stay out there that long. And then we make sure that they get in bed in the afternoon some and take some rest. And then we really, really control where and what they do at night. We want it to be fun, but we want it to be clean fun, and we want to make sure they're in bed. So we've had 11 o'clock curfew most of the week that we've been out here. We've checked every bed every night. One of our coaches said if he smelled any alcohol on him, he was going to kiss one of them, so that kind of took care of that. Got that out of the way. And as far as I know, I don't think anybody's been kissed before they've been put to bed by Coach Rucker. If you've seen Coach Rucker, only Nancy wants to kiss Coach Rucker. It's not a group of guys. But we've told them, again, these guys have won 4 bowl games that have been here. And we have a little thing called the Drive for 5. We want them to win their 5th bowl game for the 5-year seniors. And they've been involved in 2 Rose Bowls, a Holiday Bowl, and an Alamo Bowl, and a Fiesta Bowl now against Ohio State. To play, even to be able to play in your career at Texas, Michigan, USC, Iowa, Arizona State, and Ohio State in bowl games and have a chance to win all 5 is really, really something special these kids will remember for the rest of their lives. So I do feel like that they think this game's really, really important. They looked fresh yesterday when we practiced, and it gets to be a long week about today. Somebody asked about being anxious. We've been here a long time, so the guys are all ready to play. And I think the stadium will stir them up today, too. That'll be really good for them to walk in there and get the feel of game day. And you start seeing all the I went out to eat dinner with one of our hosts last night and starting to see a lot of those red jerseys showing up around here. So you see all the red and orange start screaming at each other a day early and get pumped for the game. And some of it's alcohol-induced, or it was last night. But they'll all be pumped and ready to go.
Great. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you very much.
We'll have a photo.